welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Paul Moreland, also known as Blue Pill, here with me today. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing amazing. And yourself?
I'm doing quite well. You know, I was really excited for this conversation today because I came across your scholarship about 8 years ago. And it was the first time I saw someone who appeared to be in my age bracket who had already been studying the things that I was getting introduced to for years, and who was able to have a graduated conversation about things that I was just merely taking interest in. So it's funny how this being 11/11 is a gateway for a conversation such as this at this time, and I appreciate you being here this morning.
It's an honor to be here on your platform. I just saw your opening montage, and I'm just inspired by that alone. There's a lot going on, so as much as I'm going to be interviewed, I look forward to learning more about your journey as well.
Absolutely. And I don't mind sharing it with you, because what I've seen is that the universe speaks to many of us and it says similar things. And the beauty of it is we all hear it in different ways. But when we connect as family due to the messages that we've been receiving through our experiences in life. So let's definitely have a valuable conversation today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a moment, send out a text message, like, subscribe, and share this video out, because this man here is getting ready to provide a valuable, dynamic conversation for our whole entire community this morning. Now, Paul, can you tell me, where were you born?
I was actually born in the Bronx.
Yes. Okay, in the Bronx. And what was it like for you growing up in the Bronx?
I was born in 1975 in the Bronx. The Bronx was a war zone. The Bronx was the poster child for, I don't know if everybody sees the images that they show when they depict the origins or the beginnings of hip hop. But Bronx was, I remember at the age of 2, asking my parents, what the hell happened? Like, it really looked like it was the remnants of a nuclear, bombed out activity. I had no idea what the hell. But these abandoned buildings had sounds coming from it that were captivating. This was my first encounter with hip hop. Wow. And I could not make sense of where this music, where these sounds were coming from. And the sounds were so powerful, but the infrastructure was so weak. You know what I'm saying? So it was a paradox. But the Bronx, even in the midst of what it was going through, it was still beautiful, because the Bronx is the only part of New York that's connected to the continental United States. Everything else is an island in New York City. So the Bronx has a lot of foliage. The Bronx has a lot of old stones. Like, it looks very prehistoric, and it's mixed inside of the city. And I was engaged by the topography of the landscape, the environment. Like, it really looked like a jungle to a degree, built inside of a city. So in the Bronx Zoo, immediately became my favorite place. Being able to, visit the zoo and ask all of the questions about these animals, and just really expand my my knowledge base. My father would bring us to the museums in the city, and that started me on my journey, my inquiry, asking these questions, just being very inquisitive about my environment.
For sure.
Yeah.
Would you say that the weak infrastructure with the powerful sound of hip hop, the way that the neighborhood looked, and your access to the city zoo in a place like New York, all that coming together kind of set the tone for you to be tough, but also be informed about what's going on in your world?
I mean, I can't necessarily say that that's what did it initially. For that period of my life, it was more inquisitive. That's
Mhm.
where my journey started in terms of my exploration to understand my environment and understand the things that were going on. So I'm in the Bronx early in life. We're going back and forth between the Bronx and Harlem. Then at the age of 5, my mother takes us and we go to St. Croix, to the Virgin Islands, where
Really?
her ancestors are from. And in the Virgin Islands, she was pregnant with my younger brother, KT the arch degree. And this is where she ends up meeting Dr. Sabi because
Who is
she
Dr. Sabi? Who is
hmm,
Dr. Sabi?
Dr. Sabi is for the lack of a better term, a African holistic doctor. But he was born in Honduras, but definitely identifies with his African roots. And Dr. Sabi is known for curing quote unquote AIDS in the 80s, when it was
Wow.
being said that there was no cure for AIDS. So Dr. Sabi implemented a healing regimen that was African biomineral based, where he was making the argument that when we were brought from the continent, they didn't bring our food with us. So his approach towards healing was one in which he incorporated herbs that were they're identical to our genetic makeup from regions of the planet that we originated from, not you know westernized or European regions that only work with the physiology of Europeans.
Mhm. Can you can you remember what any of those herbs or minerals were that he felt were identical with our genome?
Um, Ones that were compatible with our genome would be yellow dock, burdock root,
Yeah,
and
just a couple of
ironically,
them, not too
yeah,
many,
yeah,
just a couple of them.
mhm. These were actually herbs that were found, over here as well in this
Okay.
particular indigenous environment. And that's very interesting. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
Later on in life that I would start engaging this conversation about our origins in this landmass.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you can make those connections through the food, through the foliage and the fauna, through different things such as that.
Hmm.
And one of the main foods that he would introduce, to our physiology and our body, and one of the main staples of food that he would always fix everything with when I was over there was sea moss, Irish moss. I had no idea as a child what the hell it was, but they would make pudding and tea and I mean just about
Right.
everything that we had,
Right.
and it was made out of
So,
sea.
ladies and gentlemen, he's what he's talking about is his childhood experience between his mother, Dr. Sabi, and how he's being introduced to powerful foods and fauna, one of them being sea moss. A lot of people are interested in sea moss right now. A lot of people
Mhm.
are eating sea moss right now. Sometimes maybe without even understanding the history or how it got introduced to us. But I can definitely say sea moss is one of those foods that a lot of people are latching on to. I think it should be here to stay. Would you agree with that?
Sea moss is 3.5 billion years old, so I would agree to that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's one of the
Absolutely.
oldest plants on
Right.
the planet, so sea moss has been here forever, and it's finally gotten its time in the light, and I'm appreciative to be here to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, how long were y'all in St. Croix, and when did y'all return to the U.S.?
Okay, so I was in St. Croix roughly for 5 to 6 years, and around the age of 11 to 12, I came back on a visit to see my father during Christmas because they was doing Christmas wrong, in the tropics from what I was indoctrinated to understand quote unquote Christmas to be. So I visited my father, and he was living in Brooklyn this
Okay.
for this visit. He wasn't in the Bronx anymore. Now he had moved to Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
I visit him in Brooklyn, and I never wanted to go back to the Caribbean ever again.
Right.
And I fell in love like when I got off the train stop, the A train on Prospect Park. It
Right.
was I remember it was a Saturday, god damn it, and I went home with him, and the Channel 5 was showing Godzilla.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that
And he bought
you
me
came,
McDonald's. Yeah, let's talk about it.
yeah, the fact that you came from a probably more spaced out, less developed than,
Tranquil, very
yeah,
tranquil,
tranquil, right?
right? But yes, very undeveloped. I had to climb trees for coconuts, stuff like that.
Mhm.
You know, on the way to school, you could pick your breakfast off the trees.
Wow.
Sugar apples, bananas,
Right.
mangoes in some cases.
Right.
Um, you know, the entire experience was there.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I learned a lot in the Virgin Islands. You know what I'm saying? About life, about what people was into, about things that take place at night, about grown folk stuff,
Mhm.
but it was not Brooklyn. You know,
Right.
Brooklyn was so engaging
Right.
for an 11/12-year-old.
Mhm.
Um, it was just magnetic. It was captivating, you know, and
So
I didn't want to leave, and I
that that
never
that
left.
that sound that was coming out of the broken buildings in the Bronx when you were a child were now more
Now it
and more
was
magnetic.
not only magnetic, but now it was matched by a orchestra of additional sounds because Flatbush is Little Caribbean. It wasn't the Caribbean that I just came from. It was a conglomeration of Jamaicans, Haitians, Puerto Ricans,
And I'm
Trinidadians,
sure what he's getting ready to say is
Bajans,
Flatbush was a mixture of so many different cultures. Go
so
ahead.
many,
Yeah.
so many. So
Mhm.
you're not only now hearing hip hop, but you're hearing reggae, you're hearing soca, you're hearing dancehall. You know, um, I can't say shit. It wasn't reggaeton at the time, but
Right.
you're hearing what
Right.
the Hispanics are playing. You know what I'm saying? And then it's not only the sounds; it's the sounds and the smells.
Yep.
It's the sounds, the smells, and the colors. Right?
Mhm.
It's the flags. It's the pride that people. You know what I mean? It's just so
Mhm.
much, and it's so many people.
Right.
I'm coming from the, St. Croix where things is, like you said, a little bit more
Right.
spaced out in terms of everyone's not on top of one another.
Right.
It's not that crowded. Buildings are not going to the high heavens. You
Mhm.
feel me?
Yep. And so now when you come here and you see this huge melting pot of energy,
Yes.
what's next? Do you think, oh, now I become a powerful man, specifically a powerful melanated man, or do you say, what's going on
I'm
out here? Let me continue my
yeah.
inquisition.
I'm still on my journey. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I'm still being inquisitive as a child, and I'm still engaged by all of this stimulus. You know what I'm saying? All of these
Mhm.
sounds and these smells, and you know, as a child, you're attempting to figure out where do you fit. You know what I mean? And all
Yeah.
of this,
Yeah.
but you as children, you're there to receive. You're there to engage. You're there to
Absolutely.
learn. You know what I mean?
Yep. And one thing I want to raise awareness about right now at this juncture is that young people clear across the planet Earth, in the beginning, most of them, if not all of them, are in this phase of inquisition. And as you get older, you move out of the inquisition phase more into a reality where you are participating in the world. But people have different lengths of the inquisition phase. Some people might be inquisitive until they're 12. Some people might be inquisitive to the day they die. Some people, so it's a sliding scale. And so we should expect all children to be in the inquisition phase, trying to figure out the world around them for at least the first couple of decades of their life.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So,
Absolutely. And let me mention in the midst of all of this, I have a twin brother, right? So
okay.
I'm bouncing all of these experiences off with someone who's my identical twin. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying?
What was that like having a twin the whole time?
It was amazing. But that was a inquisitive process within itself, because now I'm
Mhm.
attempting to find self-identity in a dynamic that, you know, I have somebody identical that I'm looking at that looks just like me, and I can't make sense of this shit.
Mhm.
And my father and my mother to me looked identical. They looked alike. They looked like brother and sister. So I was screwed up with that concept until I was about 5 or 6.
You said
Like,
you looked
wait,
around, everybody looks just like me.
they, yeah, my father and my mother looked almost identical, like brother and sister. Like they looked the same to me
Right,
as a
right, right,
child. They don't look the same now. I don't know what the hell was going on in my brain chemistry back then, but
right.
they looked alike. And then my brother looked alike like me. But you know, here's the weird dynamic. Oftentimes we don't have the opportunity to see ourselves,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So I'm responding to how people respond more so. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And what they're
Yeah.
telling us, and oh, you look the same and such and such. So I told a story the other day that my mother didn't notice she was pregnant with twins. You know what I'm saying? She did
Mhm.
not know we had the same heartbeat. She didn't do a sonogram or anything of that nature. They just told her, she just thought she was just very big, you know, that it was a big child.
Mhm.
So my brother came out first, and I didn't make my parents until like 30 somewhat minutes after that. So there was really no preparation for me. You know, there was no expectation for me. There was none of those things. You know what I'm saying? I came almost by accident. They was cleaning my mother up and saw a little foot sticking out,
Wow.
you know?
Yeah.
So I say all that to say that I had to really deal with self-discovery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had to make sense of it because it wasn't being made for me,
Mhm.
you know? So
So your twin brother is actually a little bit older than you.
yeah,
Okay.
get some minutes.
Mhm. Now, did you all ever have conversations about self identity, self discovery, as a means of figuring the world out? Did you? What were your conversations like with your parents growing up?
With my parents per se.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, we would be inquisitive, you know, we would ask questions. I don't know if we were outright asking those flat out questions like
Mm-hmm.
you're asking them, but you just get bits and pieces, you know. Like I said, my father was very much involved in teaching us history, and bringing us to the museum and bringing us to Central Park and doing things of that nature that he was always teaching. He is a teacher by trade.
Mm-hmm.
So he was always teaching, and we were always receiving those lessons, and we would ask bits and pieces of questions here and there. But the self-discovery that you might be referring to, that was something that was more so internal. And me and my brother went through that together. We would make those conversations, you know what I'm saying, happen between one another, dealing with our own self-discovery. And, you know, when we got into Brooklyn, you know, that introduced us to like the street dynamic. You feel
Okay.
me?
Yep.
And that was really the adventures. That was really the road that led to self-discovery. Because that was really that was the cauldron. That was that cooking pot. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right. So what did you all do? You got out into the streets, and what were your influences? What did you do when you got out into the streets?
Um, my initial influences, you know, when we got into the streets of Brooklyn, uh, you know, they had little street cliques, you know what I'm saying, for around my way in Flatbush.
Mm-hmm.
And the street cliques was mostly into boosting.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if your audience knows what boosting is.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Stealing.
yeah, running up to stores and stealing, you know, taking clothes and other items and things of that nature. And sometimes it will result into strong arm robberies, you know, them robbing other people
Mm-hmm.
and things. But I also, my first encounters that I can remember that I was engaged by was observing 5%ers, you know what I'm saying, in my community, and them
So
being in ciphers and doing the knowledge And I remember, you know, as a shorty, you would just come around and
Yep.
listen. And I was really impressed by intelligence. Like I said, my father's a professor, so he had us reading the New York Times at the age of 9. You know what I'm saying? I had a different propensity for intelligence and information. And these brothers from the Nation of Gods and Earth, uh, also identified as 5%ers, they would be in ciphers just talking about things that was so magnanimous, you know, to my understandings, that I was very much engaged. And but these was also, you know, later on in my life, these were also the individuals that were responsible for not necessarily, you know, the crime waves in the neighborhood,
Mhm.
but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They was
So,
controlling this trade and that trade, but then
mhm,
they was into information. So again, it was another paradox that I was just like, okay, I don't really understand, but I'm willing to learn.
mhm. Did you ever notice a trend that some people who have information, who have knowledge, they start to look at other people around them who might not have that knowledge and might not have that mental faculty established as a resource. You know, somebody who can come and buy, or somebody who can pretty much feed into my agenda of what I want to see happen. Do you see a pattern of people taking advantage of others as opposed to making sure that everybody gets the information?
Not at that phase and that age. I mean, we could have that conversation about
Mhm.
now, but in my developmental stages, that wasn't necessarily the case. You know, the
Mhm.
5%ers have a dichotomy of how they separate, you know, that population, and the 10% are, you know, people that have the information but hold the information and don't share it with the masses, and the 85% are dumb, deaf, and blind. And just with you understanding that percentage, you can move around, you know, the world, or move around society, and actually those ratios start popping out to you in real life. So I was
Mhm.
thankful for the information. I was
Right.
thankful for the fact that yes, everybody is not inclusive, and this particular information ain't for everyone, nor will everyone gravitate to it. So I had an
Mhm.
appreciation for the fact that my interests in life were not shared by everyone in my social group. They weren't shared by all of my quote unquote friends. They wasn't into
Right.
everything that I was into for the reasons that I was into them. So
Mhm.
I already had an idea that they was, you know, they were speaking truth.
Right.
And truth is not attractive, you know what I'm saying, to everybody. You know, high science is not something that everyone is going to gravitate to. So I had already known in my personal experiences that this was something that the masses, you know, was not entertaining, or was not
Right.
engaged by.
Right.
Um, Now, what you're talking about, you know, later on in life, I was able to attest to that. That yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The
So
people.
so when I so when I was younger, I can relate to what you're saying because I grew up in foster care. I was moving from one place to another. This, of
Mhm.
course, was after already living in the inner city of Cleveland, Ohio. You know,
Mm.
where there were abandoned homes, whole blocks of
Yeah,
abandoned homes. You
yeah,
know, of
yeah,
course, abandoned buildings and stuff like that. So I'm very familiar with the poverty, the hip hop, and the retail mix, right? But as I was on my journey from home to home, I would meet different adults who they might have had knowledge, but they also might end up in jail from time to time. You know what I'm saying? Or you know, you might meet a big brother who he got good intentions for you. He's teaching you good things, but then he gets arrested for selling crack. You see, and so
this what I'm talking about.
yeah, at some
They
point,
was
I
they
started to
was yeah, they
connect.
was the big homies, but they
Yeah,
was yeah,
yeah, and so
they was the
you
big
know.
homies, and the information was empowering. The information seemed to be, you know, the thing that ultimately will quote unquote set you free or set you apart from the other people who was just selling drugs in the community, and you could tell that they didn't have any information, or they didn't gravitate towards information. But you know, the big homies was also, yeah, they also, you know, ran the trade or competed for it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
They also
Yep.
was, you know, robbing people in the neighborhood at one point or another. They might be pimping. So, like I said,
Right.
it was a contradiction. It was a paradox, but that kind of even picture interest more to be like, whoa, how are they getting away with this? And what does this mean? And how can they be
Right.
so contradictory and still standing on their square,
Right.
confident,
Right.
you know, with the information? So it's like,
You know, I started, you know, due to those experiences that I was just talking about, associating wisdom with a little bit of crime. Like the people who have, you know, the attractive wisdom tend to be people who are also a little bit counterculture, a little bit. You know, it seems like people who
mhm,
had the quote unquote knowledge were also anti a little bit. But as I got older and my heart grew for other people, I realized the need to detach the wisdom from a crime element and attach the wisdom to a love element. I don't see that everybody does that, but I think it's what we need to do though.
that's powerful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So now, as a high school age young man, what was going on in your life, and what did you see next for yourself?
Okay. By the time I get into high school, now I'm
Yeah.
introduced to gangs, um,
Mm.
or organized crime. You know,
Okay.
literally, I went to a school called New Utrecht, which was in Bensonhurst, New York, or Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and I went to school in fall. The summer of that fall, they killed a young man named Yusef Hawkins in Bensonhurst. They just had a documentary about it. It was one of, you know, the many racial killings in New York that I grew up in, understanding, you know, about the racial dynamics in our city. And uh this school was heavily controlled by the Italian mob, right? So
Wow.
we almost had to mob up as melanated youth as a necessity to just to go to school and survive, because going to school was cool, but you had to get out and get home. And that
Right.
always was a contest. You almost had to go through a physical maze just to make it home. You know, where you're ducking bats and golf clubs and fists and all sorts of bottles and stuff. I mean, it was crazy. Every single day, it was almost like a
Really?
race riot out there.
Wow.
And yeah, we're fighting against mobsters and their children. They're pulling up, you know, greasy fat dudes in their Cadillacs, and they pop in the trunk and passing out bats. I mean, it was crazy. So the youth had to, you know, out of necessity, we had to mob up ourselves, but we kept that angst and that energy and that anger, you know, all the way with us going home. So on the trains, we will mob out on the trains, and then when we get to these transit hubs like Atlantic Avenue, where all of the trains converge, then you start connecting with other cliques and other crews and what have you. And then somebody always has a clever idea. Let's go to there. Let's go there. Let's do this. Let's
Right.
do that. Instead of everybody going home. So then
Right.
we're extending this crime wave or this anger and this frustration, and you know, we're turning it into retail reparations or retail therapy. You know,
Right.
so it felt a lot better. You know, like, okay, this feels a lot better. I could, you know, and
Right.
that continued. But in the midst of it all, I was a good student. You know what I'm saying? Because of my
Yep.
preparation early in life, you know, the foundational preparation that my father gave us about how to study, having the discipline and the focus to study. You know, I was an avid book reader at that time. So reading textbooks and retaining information and getting it was not a hard thing, you know. So the academic aspect of me engaging in high school was cool, but the social dynamic, you know what I'm saying, that was something different. Um, and again, these are young men and women are now coming into the cognition that you have to find your way in the world. You're not children anymore. and people is not dealing with you as such, because these grown men who you'll see them later on in the New York Daily News, you know what I'm saying, as Fat Tony Serrano and shit like this, you know, these mobsters that they're saying the whole, you know, the whole city should be terrified of. Yeah, they're trying to take our heads off. You know,
and you were in high school.
I'm 14.
Wow.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very vivid discussion about what life was like for you growing up in New York, and I think there's something for everybody to take away from it. The reality of middle school kids in America, high school kids in America, being attacked by different people and trying to navigate their way through life, getting bits and pieces of information from everywhere.
Look,
and
so I'm going through that with the Italian mob and their children in Brownsville, I mean in Bensonhurst in the daytime on the trains. Then you get on the train and you're mobbed up, you're clicked up, right? And you get to these hubs like Atlantic, and you might be running into your friends, but then you run into the Decepticons, right?
Hey, hold on. Listen, go ahead.
This is intense, because now you're talking about you're running into a mob of young melanated men, right, who are known around the entire city for showing up to your school and destroying everything with hammers, ice picks, and knives, right? That's how the Decepticons roll. They're hitting you in the head with hammers.
Why?
Bro, inner city angst.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In inner city angst. Young children who are growing up in a latchkey era, who don't have both parents in the home, who don't have anything to eat. You know what I'm saying? So the trauma dynamic has now unified itself into a mob, a blob of just unapologetic anger. And we were getting into the self-destructive phase and making a culture out of it. So these men will hit you in the head with hammers and stab you with ice picks. And they're just mobbing through the entire train doing this. They're going up to your school and doing this. They're snatching earrings from girls. I mean, this shit is crazy.
Right.
And
when you say hammer, you're not talking about no proper toy. You're talking about an actual hammer.
I'm out of construction hammer.
Yeah. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been watching my episodes, you know that I've been talking about the intentional decision to be a thug in the streets that results from lack of knowledge, lack of resources, and lack of effective relationships. The Decepticons were Decepticons because they wanted to be. The mob was the mob because they wanted to be. But we're going to talk about some answers right after this brief message with Blue Pill. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. How you feeling out there?
I'm amazing.
That's a fact. Now, you could go your whole life out here listening to the world, and most of the world tells you that being melanated is not a positive thing. And they don't use the word melanated, they say black. Being black is not a positive thing. Being black might often mean that you live in poverty. Being black means that you're at a disadvantage. There are people out there who go their whole life and not discover the actual power of blackness. Can you take a few seconds and educate us on the power of blackness or melanin in this conversation?
From a pride perspective, from a
No,
metaphysics
no, 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 no.
perspective,
From
from
no, no, no. From a general perspective, not too technical, for people to understand that there are numerous positive things that are associated with you being a melanated individual. There are
yeah,
numerous
I mean,
positive.
okay. So my father is a professor. He's a professor of African American literature. Okay, so my upbringing was heavy indoctrination into the successes of quote unquote Black Americans here in America, as opposed to our historical record outside of here. So I grew up learning everything about civil rights. I grew up learning that jazz was, hands down the most beautiful scientific creation ever. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? And I was told our story about how these things came about with us being quote unquote, at a disadvantage,
mhm,
right? And I was taught about the ability for somebody at a disadvantage to excel and that having even more meaning. So that particular perspective of how I observed us, right, gave me the appreciation that even though I saw dilapidated, buildings and situations, but I saw people coming out of that triumphantly.
mhm,
Those people are stronger than those people that I see downtown. You know what I'm saying? They got everything made for them. So
mhm.
trying through adversity, you know what I mean, was how I was prepared to look at winners, to look at people, who defeated the odds and really came up. So I started looking at our birding as a blessing. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yes.
And
So,
later on in life, when I started understanding about the science of carbon and compression and pressure and what makes diamonds and the fact that we have the same carbon in our skin, then I started understanding us on a metaphysical level and appreciating who we are and the opportunity that has been bestowed upon us to transfer or transform in such an amazing way.
absolutely. And I love the way that you put that. And I'm so proud that you were afforded correct knowledge from the time that you were young, no matter what you saw growing up. Because a lot of young
Hmm.
people, like think about young people in the Midwest or even right here in New York, they grow up thinking that, oh, black is not beautiful. Black means that
Oh yeah.
I'm low on the totem pole. I think that we have a clear idea that somehow blackness is negativity, or that blackness is bad, or that blackness is less than. And I want to continue the campaign of getting people to see blackness from the opposite direction.
Yeah,
I think the
it is.
whole world needs to reevaluate. I think the whole world needs to reevaluate the way that we look at blackness and understand blackness as the parent of our universe. Go ahead.
That's not gonna happen until we make it happen.
That's right.
Until we make that standard attractive enough that people are willing to observe it and tell the truth on it. They hating on it, and we know why. So, and the marketing is powerful, right? The marketing that's against, you seeing yourself as dynamic. It's a powerful marketing machine, you
Mhm.
know, and it's very effective, as we can see. And if I did not have my father as that power, right? I don't know if I would be able to reverse the curse. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the marketing, I remember the marketing. It was very powerful and it was so subtle. That somebody like my father was able to catch it. So he wouldn't take us to see Rocky. He wouldn't, and he gave us a 2-hour debriefing after we seen Superman. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Um, he's like, I'm not gonna take you to a movie to see a fictional account of some white man beating up, you know, a melanated Mr. T. Like, I'm not gonna do that to your psyche. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I'm not gonna take you to see Rambo. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna buy you GI Joes. I'm not gonna prepare you for the military industrial complex by engaging your adolescent mind with these toys and having you think about going to war and fighting in the white man's army. I'm not going to take you to go and see a white man in tights flying around saving the world and having you think that that's, you know what I'm saying, a actualization, because that's going to prep you for a savior complex, right? So, you know, my father didn't do religion, church, and none of that stuff, right? He was blackity black, black, black. Or he is, for that matter. So I don't know what my end result would be without having him as a buffer and a filter to knock down everything that was coming my way, dealing with that white indoctrination, right?
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
we loved us some Ralph Lauren.
Right. Sure did. But you know, I see you as a source of positive media that
Yes.
has a tremendous impact on people, you know. And when you come to a platform like mine and you and I both make that positive contribution toward people, then you know people begin to wake up to the reality that not only is black beautiful, but you have a responsibility by being a melanated individual to express yourself. You have a responsibility to reveal your gifts to the world, because when you reveal your gifts to the world, it inevitably makes the world a better place for you and the future generations.
Oh, absolutely. And I have garnered a lot of information, you know what I'm saying, as to how dynamic we are on a cosmic
Absolutely.
level, you know, beyond the surface.
Yeah.
So I'm compelled, you know, to create platforms to share this information to imbue our people with a sense of not only pride but purpose. You
Absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
where you have a cosmic imperative, you have a galactical assignment. You know what I'm saying? You bigger than even just this planet. You know, your
Explain
importance
that.
in this
Explain that.
cosmos.
Explain that, please.
You know, we can't verify intelligent life anywhere else in the cosmos, and I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but the way that it has conformed itself in this particular center of the galaxy, right, on this planet, this is the perfect, right, how should I say it, this is the
This is the perfect picture, the perfect image of universal intelligence.
that part, right?
Yeah.
So because of where Earth is, because of um the conditions on Earth, it
Mhm.
just makes it for the um
The glory of the universe,
the kingdom, right?
as far as we know it. That's right.
As far as we know it. And I believe that when I look at these insects and I look at fish species and I look at a lot of stuff, you know, almost like when they had that docking space in Star Wars and all of these different life forms from all of these
Mhm.
different planets, you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying, congregated at that particular docking station, I feel like Earth is the same thing. So I think that we are already surrounded by intelligent life form in the form of these different insects and
Mhm.
animals and you know, plant life
Mhm.
and things of that
Mhm.
nature. But us, who we are, this species, you feel me?
Yeah. Yeah.
We
You
are
yeah, you the one.
we are an incredible creation,
Yeah, that's right.
endowed with the ability, you know, to communicate, you know what I'm saying, endowed with the ability to think,
Yeah.
right? We have these brains that are supercomputers.
Mhm.
Um, and then when we start getting into the science of what actually carbon is, you know what I'm saying, that is often referred to as melanin. But when we study the science of carbon, okay, and we start dealing with the elements of this universe, you know, being carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen, and we just start really understanding things from a molecular level, right? Instead of the package, you know, instead of what they condense to become. You know, when we really understand the science of these particular elements and how they're showing up, you know, then we could start understanding our connection to them. And
Mhm.
then we could appreciate the fact that we are stardust. You know what I'm
Hold up.
saying?
Hold up. You said we are stardust?
Stardust, yes.
So
We are
if we are,
composed of the main components that you find everywhere in the universe, right? The three main which are carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen. These are the building blocks of the entire cosmos. So everything that you find outside there, you are composed of and you are made of primarily. You know what I'm saying? But again, like I said, once again, but you are imbued with intelligence. You know what I'm saying? So what does that give you the power and dominion over? Right?
yeah, it gives you,
'Cause
it gives
I
you,
don't
it gives you, it gives you an opportunity to reconfigure those elements however your heart desires to provide new things on earth.
that as well. So you have the ability to operate as a co-creator, right?
Yep.
And you know, you the little homie to the big homie. You get to do
Yep.
the things that the big homie do. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yep.
You have the ability with this particular mind to get to know yourself and ultimately, you know, to get to know the creator. I don't know if anyone else or anything else that is experiencing that, right? That
Yep.
has come here, you know, to experience that or has come anywhere where they're at to experience that. I only know that that's the experience that we are having,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So when I look at us in particular as melanated beings, knowing what's out there in the universe, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, it's us.
Yeah.
This is a journey of a lifetime, and you should be super duper appreciative. But even if you step back and let's say that we look at biblical narratives and what have you, you know, the biblical narrative is always talking about somebody being tricked out of their birthright, somebody being tricked out of their divinity, someone going to sleep, you know what I'm saying, and forgetting who they are and being approached by a cunning serpent that is, you know what I'm saying, attempting to tell you a lie or tempt you, you know what I'm saying, into doing things that will take you outside of, you know, actually being in receivership for this divine blessing, right?
Yep.
So I make all of these parallels and these connections to us, to who we are, and the fact that, you know, we came here and you did go to sleep, and the test is for you to awaken in this lifetime and find your way home, find your way back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Learn yourself. You know, what an adventure, what an opportunity
Yeah.
that this is.
So I want to consolidate it into a couple comments. You correct me where I'm wrong. If we are stardust, then it means that the power that we go out into the world to find is already in us. It's cosmic power. It
Yeah.
means that the gold that we go out into the world to obtain well into our 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s is already in us. The diamonds, the success. We are success when we appreciate the work of the electricity through our bodies. That's success. The cosmic electricity moving through our bodies is success.
Yeah.
And when you say come back home, you saying pay attention to yourself, discover yourself, realize your inner self, and
Mhm.
then manifest your inner self. Is that what you mean when you say come back home?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Coming home, you know, would mean understanding your relationship, you know, to yourself, to your higher form, to the cosmos,
Mhm.
you know, having an understanding and appreciation for creator,
Mhm.
right? These are vast concepts,
Yeah. Huge.
you know,
Huge.
and yes, you know, some people are able to achieve that in a lifetime. Some people have to come back a million times over.
Right. To achieve this objective. Some people will look at a conversation like this and say, for what? What's it all for? I don't get it. Come home for what? And I want to say this. There are millions of people who are walking around without their light bulb turned on. The
Mhm.
difference is that when you get into the subject matters of conversations like these, you discover your galactic assignment, you study carbon, you study melanin, you take a different approach to blackness and what it means to come home in blackness, then your light bulb could turn on. 9 times out of 10, your light bulb is not turned on. So you might not have vision. You might not be in tune with your destiny. You might not be able to see where you're going. Your life might be dark. that changes when you figure out how to turn on your inner light. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Well said. Yes. Mhm.
So we all have an inner light. Is that the reason why somebody like you is doing phenomenal work? Because we little do we know we have an inner light.
Yes. You wouldn't be alive if you didn't have that life spark.
Wow.
You know, that's what animates life.
Okay.
And, you know, once you find it in yourself and you have an appreciation of it, then you look for it in everything else. You know, it exists in everything else. You should identify it in everything else. And then that starts a different connection and a different communication.
Yeah.
And then, you know, your journey after you do it for yourself, more than likely you're going to go around convincing other people to do it for themselves and share the different tools and the methodologies that you have acquired on your journey,
Mm-hmm.
because you know you understand that, again, going back to a biblical narrative, that initially they said that, you know, the entire face of the planet was covered in darkness. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And let there be light. And then everything got so much more beautiful. Right now, they're talking about gardens and things of that
Right.
nature.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
it's that's the same analogy that we would use in life to say, well, imagine if you were walking around and everybody's light was on. You
Boom.
know, the world would be more like a garden than it was than it would be a dark surface where,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, it just sounds very
Mm-hmm.
gloomy. You ain't want to be there,
Right. Because
right?
right
Somebody
now,
was reading that part of the book like,
right.
damn,
Because
I miss.
right now we are subjects to the properties of melanin, and so the darkness of our lights being turned off. The world is a dark place because our lights are turned off. So instead of me turning into a tree of life like brother Blue Pill here, instead of me turning into a tree of life like brother Blue Pill here, I'm turning into a gun. I'm turning into a bullet. I'm turning into a piece of non-helpful media. I'm turning into a mockery.
Mm,
I'm turning into a GMO
mm,
because my light is not turned on.
right.
Now we're rounding third base here, and I really appreciated your time today. But I want you to touch on something real quick. Jay-Z said a little while back. He said, "My kids is in the house drinking liquid gold."
Mm.
Do you remember those lyrics?
Of course, I co-authored them.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, let's get some hearts and likes in the building. Hold on, put that on the screen again. What was that? What was that? What was that?
Oh, this is liquid gold. Yeah.
Whoa, 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 hold up. Hey, we got 2 minutes left. Can you please explain to us how you was able to put liquid gold in a bottle and what it can do for us?
Yes, I came into this information by a dynamic teacher in our community named Dr. Delbert Blair. And Dr. Delbert Blair would speak about the power and the properties of monatomic gold. Um, and what a monatomic is just a definition of a molecular structure. It's an arrangement of a molecular structure. It's actually called angstrom, which means that it's like a billionth size particle. You know, it's just very small, and it has a particular shape, which is hexagonal, that allows it to be absorbed through the cell membrane directly into the blood. Now, the best way to explain gold, you know, we are all born with trace amounts of gold in our body, of which are not necessarily replenished, but are depleted by the time we are in our early 20s. Hence the fact that they say, you know, this person has a heart full of gold. You actually do
Mm,
have gold in you, and gold is a superconductor. So it acts to amplify the electrical currency or conductivity throughout the body. The body is electrical, and it does need an extra boost every now and then. I explain it best by saying, imagine sunlight condensed in a bottle, because gold does the same things that the sun does. It re-energizes you, it revitalizes you, it repairs damaged DNA, it gives you clarity and focus, and it also helps to decalcify the pineal gland, which now aids and assists you in lucid dreaming, So your dreams are colorful. You are present in your dreams. You are coherent in your dreams. You are manipulating reality because reality is a projection from your subconscious realm.
So, so what you're telling me is that by me consuming gold water, amongst other things, that my pineal gland can become activated. And is that the light that we were talking about?
That is the seat of the soul, right? So yes, you know,
Okay.
once that light becomes awakened and anointed, yes, this is command center. This is where you operate from.
Wow. You
Your
know what?
power center. Yes.
You know what? We are down to the last few seconds of the show. Where can people buy gold water from you?
Goldwater.com, GOLDEWATER, goldwater.com. We also have an Instagram at Goldwater. You can come over and learn more about the product over there. At Blue Pillar 44 is where you can holler at me on Instagram as well.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please get your crown emojis ready. Blue Pill, I want to let you know that I've listened to your story today. I was inspired.
We got more to go.
I have learned from your stories, your wisdom, and I want to give you your crown today while you're still living. Everybody out there, get your crown emojis into the building. And I want to let you know, Blue Pill, that you are America's next motivator.
Thank you, my brother.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by today, all right?
Thank you. Peace,
yes,
love,
sir.
and light. Yes,
yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you got to do is stop by and pick it up.